Okay, let's get this party started. I have realized a little bit late that we are at the end of the first week of August already, and I haven't done any updates on my crochet alongs or my Mosaic WIP. And I have also done some plushie makes and had a few other ideas floating around in my head, but I need to just slow down for a second and take stock of where I'm at. So hello and welcome. I'm Geraldine, the G in G Crochet Off the Hook. And this is catching up, first of all, on my cowls. So the first cowl that I can give some progress update on is Build a Blanket Cowl 2026 with Litsa from Coco's Crochet. The last combo that we had was the Catherine wheel stitch, and I think it's this Sunday already that we will be getting our last combo, which is very exciting, and that means that this Builder blanket is nearing an end. So the last time I shared this with you all, and I'm making a square blanket, I had put the Catherine wheel stitch onto this square. I was so excited about it, and my husband had pointed out, what are you going to do? Because just imagine that that piece was not there, and we had all these strange little edges at the top of the Catherine wheel. And thank goodness I watched Litsa and was looking at her blanket going, my golly, how did she get all of that to come together? And realized then that I did not finish off the repeat at the top. So at the end of the day, making this a straight section to carry on with the next stitch combo was not such a daunting task. So I have managed to square that off, and our last combo was pulling in the color purple and the granny stitch again, of which I have done 2 rounds. Now this is going to be, this is how it's looking. This is already quite a nice lap size blanket, and the yarn I have been using, I did get in a number of colors, and it is Kismet's Knitspiration, and it is a chunky. I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook. But having said that, I did get a little yarn haul for this particular Builder Blanket cowl. There is only 163 yards, 150 meters in 100 grams. And as I'm realizing with both my cowl blankets that I chose to make squares out of, obviously the yarn is not going to last for me as much, because I need to make it stretch all the way around. This is almost all the purple that I have used up, so I've needed to only put on the 2 rounds of the granny stitch. But this has been and is, because on Sunday we'll get our next combo, such a wonderful way to put different stitches together that we might not have thought, and feel rather confident in the colors that Litsa subscriber has chosen for us to use. So it's the color combo and the stitches that everybody has nominated, and Litsa's pulled them out, and we've been able to put them into a project. So super excited for what we are going to find out will be our next and last combo this Sunday coming. Then the next cowl is roll a row, stretch down here, roll a row the dice blanket with Lynn from Lynn Penguin's Creation. And we have just recently received our next set of instructions. This is all attached. 2 seconds. There we go. We've just recently received our next set of instructions by the dice. Again, I am using the stitches that we are rolling with the dice to make a square blanket. Now, this one I have started with our very recent stitch that we were given, which is actually 10 rows of, we could change color and do 10 rows of double crochet. For this one, I am using Elite Yarn Snowball DK. So first of all, let's update on how this is looking. So we had the popcorn, which is very heavy, in the middle. I had the light blue, the dark blue, the maroon. We had, thankfully for me, some very short rows with small stitches so that I could try and keep this square. And then I've started with the double crochet. So if I stand up, we can see this one is actually, I'm not sure if it's larger than the other one or not. I should actually check. But this one is also intended to be a lap blanket. And to make the double crochet just a little bit different, I did my first 1, 2, and then the third row I did sort of double crochet but in the back loop. It just gives a ever so slight little ridge there. And then the next 3 rounds for me of double crochet. Sorry, now I'm really curious. If I put this one with this one just to see. Okay, so the dice blanket is turning out a bit larger, but the builder blanket is with chunky yarn and the dice blanket is with this DK, but they are both fabulous lap blanket sizes. So I'm just making sure they're still on track for what I'm intending their use to be. So now my situation, and I'm still trying to think through it. Of the 3 colors that I have, which is the light blue, the dark blue, and the maroon, of the maroon I only have this left. I'm trying to gauge if I would be able to make it one more round with the maroon of the double crochet, and if not, I'd frog back and have the 6. But that means that I'm not quite sticking to what the dice rolled. I just want to have this pretty blanket at the end of the day without trying to mix and match another maroon with this particular blanket. So I'm feeling a little bit sad that for this cowl I might have to go off track a little bit and not have the 10 rows that the dice has given us to make. So that was Lynn's roller dice, which is going to run until the end of August, and Litz's that we will have our last combo this Sunday. But like I always say with many of our projects that we get to do with each other, that they are always there. So if you are stuck for something, then you don't have to wait in suspense to know what's what. You could go and watch their videos for those particular cowls, jot down the sequence of how things happened, and then make your project. And do remember to share it on their platforms so that we can see what was created. Then I have my Mosaic WIP, and again I forgot to put a stitch marker in to remind me where we were the last time that we spoke, but this did grow quite steadily, and there's a massive cold front rolling in for this weekend, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to find myself with a hook and some hot chocolate and a couch and get cracking on even more of this mosaic blanket. So this is the Concerning Habits by Crochet with May. That's Robin Parent. There are 269 rows, and that's what I was looking at. And I have now reached, I have just completed row 132. So I'm still not quite halfway, am I? But this is how we are looking. And I'm going to show you in just a tick. I have moved on to the next. So I'm using black, and I'm using 2 long print DK. I have a little bit of an issue with the DK. Cakes. This, I have started the second one. The first one that I was using was called Tootsie Karma, and the one that I have moved on to now is called Garden Route. And these are 2 places that we love to visit towards the Western Cape when we're heading down that way. So I have started my second cake, which is Concerning. As I've just said, I'm not quite halfway with this project yet. I did do some calculations before I started the project, and I was sure that I would have enough of both colors. Anyway, let's do. So I have already put into here 300 grams of one of these cakes, and that was 1,080 meters. And I have so far, so yeah, I wasn't thinking of bringing these out, but let's do that. And I'm using Alsa Protect's Chick double knit in the black. These are 100 grams with 250 meters in each one. And so far, there we can see I used the Tootsie Karma one. That's the one that I've completed now in the long print. And I have used 300 grams of the black, and I have started the fourth skein of the black. Right, let's go. And this is where we are at now. So where did so? And I keep saying so. Where we have this little light streak coming all the way across, I did start it on the edge here. It went for a tiny bit, and there it starts. That was me starting with the cake of Garden Route. So everything beneath it, all of this, was with the cake of Tootsie Karma. So let's try, there we go. And this is where we are at. So we have that, we have our first little shire, and we are starting with a tree on the hill here. And then so underneath this line was all the Tootsie Karma, and this top bit is pulling from the middle of the Garden Route one. There's our other little shire and the fence post at the bottom, and I think there is another one starting this side, or is it at the top here somewhere? Yes, there's another little house starting over here. So it's got quite a bit of length on it now, and I'll try and show it all in one scoop, not quite, but that is where we are at with this one. I'm using a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook. I'm just sharing out loud. I am a little bit concerned that having finished the first cake, that the second cake is not going to get me to row 269. Again, these cakes can very seldom be found now. I did find one. It was called Longer Barn, but it's very much so just a brown and blue. It's not quite sort of, I mixed the Titsikama and the Garden Route because the colors sort of made sense to me together. I have a lot of variegated yarn in the craft room that is not a long print though. Anyway, that's for future me to figure out. At the moment I still have many rows to go before I'd have to make that decision. Right, and then lastly, with Granny Square Day coming up this month, let me just, sorry, 5.5 millimeter hook goes with that project there. Okay. So I have been thinking already about wanting to do a granny square. And the first one that I was thinking I would do, and I'm still having dilemmas and choices, was Jill from Gumleaf Crochet and Yarn has already completed. It's all there. It's all waiting for us. I've watched quite a few of the squares, the joining, and the edging and everything already. It's absolutely taken my fancy, but I haven't been able to settle on what to do. So if you've been here for a while, you'll know that what I often do with the project is I will make a sample of it, write the information all on a tag for myself. You can't really see, but I normally just have printed tags and then I'd write on there. This particular one is Anne's blanket. I had yarn in mind for it, and would you believe it? Again, I was sitting with the situation where I cannot get more of what I want for that particular project. So I settled on doing a sample piece of pure gold with a 4 millimeter crochet hook. These were just yarn ends that I had, and I did create the square. So often what I do with projects, and you would have seen if you've watched some of all the previous videos, I have a box with them in, with the information, with a sample piece that I've done, just because it's something that really catches my attention. And then at that particular time, I don't have a set project in mind for it, or a direction in which way I want to go. And then over the years even, I will tap into that box and have a look and pull out something and go, oh yes, but all the information of what I did for that sample, what it was, the pattern, who it was by, where I would be able to find links or patterns or information about it, I write on this little tag. So that is what I did by using these yarn ends that I had. Now I did use Owl's Pure Gold. What was I planning on using? Well, I wanted to use the Karoo Tweed in double knit in this colorway. And this was the meerkat, the cactus, and the Fynbos. It's a beautiful new yarn that came out this year. It's acrylic, superwash wool and viscose. And I so wanted to make this blanket. I had been holding on to this for this particular project. But I'd have to change my whole colorway because it's so popular that I'd need to wait for a restock. And then, if you would remember, I wanted to do a temperature blanket at the beginning of the year, and I had received yarn for that temperature blanket, which I reminded myself about when I used yarn ends to make myself a sample. And I have chosen 3 colors, of which I know I have enough yarn. This was in pistachio, titanium, and terracotta. And I think that that would also make Anne's blanket really pop. So either I'm going to hold on, well, I have my sample, but I'm either going to hold on still to the Owl Pure Gold, or I'll start it as a project, or I'm going to see in the next month or 2 if they are going to have enough restock of this. And then, and you see, my husband did remind me, why are you only getting 1 or 2? Because I had 2 of the meerkat and I only have 1. And the other ones that I did get, I ordered as chunky. So I can't do the double knit and the chunky together. That's not going to fly. With Granny Square month, that is definitely a Granny Square I do want to get stuck into. Staying with Granny Squares, I wanted to just share, because perhaps some of you may not have seen this particular square. Now, this was a square that was shared with us last year. It's called, I did put notes down here, but they're too far for me to read, so I'll bring them a bit closer. It is Tuppy Turtle. It is free on Instagram. It's by Sharon Morrison from Love of Crochet Shares. Now, I did share this during Christmas extravaganza. It is a gift that I plan on giving for Christmas this year. And it's this gorgeous Tuppy Turtle square from last year. Now, it also had originally a tag like I've just done with Anne's blanket square. And I pulled it out this year when I was going through the box, and I wanted to transform it. And I did into a wall hanging. So I'm sharing that so that for Granny Squares now coming in August, that even if there are lots of different types of Granny Squares that we are wanting to get our hooks into, even if we just make a sample of it, somewhere down the line, you may be able to transform that square into a gift in a different way. Staying with the Granny Squares, and this is the last project I'm going to end off on because I have just started with it. And I'm going to share, look at this basket. I'm so chuffed with this. I was treated to the Spider-Man movie last week. Was it last week, Sunday? And movie houses aren't really a favorite of mine for a long time. Just crowds and people, and I'd rather sit in the lounge and watch something on the big screen than having somebody coughing and chewing and chatting and misbehaving and all those lovely things that go with going to watch something in the cinema. But I was treated to a prestige setting. So we arrived, the theater was, the whole movie house was definitely full, but we had these chairs that you could lie back in. You had your popcorn and your juice and your chocolate and everything brought to you. And they already know this, so you can just laugh along. I'm pretty sure I did doze off for at least a good 10 minutes during the movie. It was way too comfortable. Okay, for you it would have been just a second, but sorry about that. We lost battery. I did not check to see how full the battery was. I'm going to try and just pick up real quick where I left off, and that was on the way to the movie house. I spotted these gorgeous baskets in the window. It's a lovely soft metal with a wooden handle, and it has turned out to be the perfect little project basket. I did only grab 2 of them. I don't want to clutter a whole lot of new project baskets in the craft room. I do have many bags for projects, but this one is housing another granny square idea that I picked up when I was having a look through my previous projects, and that is this 4-color granny square. And there is a tutorial from Ophelia Talks on the YouTube streets, and this may look perhaps like a strange square to put together, but this was purely with yarn ends. 2 of them were variegated and just 2 other odd colors. And I've always wanted to try and make a project with something that doesn't have too many yarn ends to weave in, which is why I love this effect. So I did have a few more yarn ends that I've been able to put together, just cake them up. And like I mentioned, I have got some variegated yarn in the craft room, and I chose this one, married it with some of the yarn ends, and I started this granny square. And these are the ones that I think I'm wanting to make for myself for Granny Square month. And this is how it's looking. So I've used 1 variegated and 3 solid colors. You start with just the ends from the beginning, and depending on how large you make your squares, you will only have 1 each of the colors at the end. So 8 yarn ends to weave in, and I don't know, the combinations can be endless. I'm also thinking of reaching a certain point and then offsetting each one of the colors to see how that would look. But it will be a play of 4-colored granny squares for me. Only thing that I do differently with these particular squares is I do start all of mine with a double magic ring, and when I get to the end and you need to turn around, I don't join with a chain 2 and slip stitch. I just join with the half double crochet and then turn and carry on. Nothing that really changes the project at all, just the way that I normally do my squares. And that's a wrap for this update. Next week I do have some amigurumis and plushies off the hook, so we'll get to chat about some of those. This is the weekend, I'm pretty sure it's International Women's Month. So to all our lovely ladies in our crafting community, thank you so much for being fabulously you and everything that you get to share with us. I do hope you all much joy as you get stuck into your crafts over this weekend. Until I see you all again, take care. Bye-bye.